Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dude Was Sick, hopping in just a couple minutes late, but managed to make it here for this awesome race between Walrus and Kiang. Taking a second just to look up PBs and race times from the tournament here. We got Walrus has on the SR.com a 1:27.22. It's a very solid time for him. It's a very solid time in general. And Kiang has a 1:27.40, so pretty evenly matched runners here. Hoping that this is a really good race. They're at about halfway through, a little more than halfway through the escape segment. So, just a lot of movement tech, nothing too crazy, which is kind of boring. But I've always said that these first two segments, escape and Eastern, is when you can really tell some high-level play coming out from people, because it's all about movement. Movement is something that continues through the entire run. So if you have really clean, solid movement when it's all about movement in the first two segments, you know that the runners put a lot of time in, and that they really have practiced a lot. are really dedicated to lowering their times in anywhere possible. So we have two 127 runners here. Very, very good times in a general sense. And it's pretty much dead even as we come into the end of this cape. Oh, Walrus takes a hit from a rat there, so he's going to drop about a half second or so behind. And he gets that text box, unfortunately, which can be skipped. Probably a little flustered by getting hit by that rat in the room before. And we got about a 557 from Kyung and a 558 for Walrus, which I'm sure neither of them are happy with, but hey, that's a link to the past. That's how it goes, and they're definitely not very far behind by any means. Alright, so I'm assuming both of these runners will be getting the Sanctuary Heart. After they mash through some text, Kyung, there he goes, and Walrus Prime right behind him. So pretty cool. This race is still pretty tight right now. Like I said, we're expecting to see that these runners are only 20 seconds, not even apart in PBs, at least on SR.com. Alright, heading over to Eastern. And not much going on except for dodging Octoroks and all the projectiles they have to offer. It can be kind of annoying if the Octoroks do very sudden changes in their movement or shoot in an unexpected direction. One thing that is a little bit unpredictable about the way they shoot is when they stop, they'll either shoot one in the direction they're facing, or they'll start shooting in the direction they're facing, then quickly turn and shoot. So it's not too hard to keep track of, but when there's a bunch of them on screen, like in the screen before this, can be pretty annoying. So, wow, neck and neck right now, frame for frame, frame for neck, whatever you want to call it, as they head into Eastern. It's kind of funny, it seemed like it went like back and forth there with that overworld movement. Whew, okay, Eastern Palace. What's there to say about this? Eastern's a pretty cool dungeon, especially for the light world. There's a couple rooms with some cool tricks, but it's mostly just movement again, like escape. All we have is a boomerang, nothing to dash with or anything like that. No crazy movement tech, but this room right here, you'll see that they're going to take kind of a weird path after picking up that first spot, step into a spawn box at a specific point to despawn two of the enemies and then kill the ones on the right and then left before you even see them. Pretty cool tech there, but very well known, commonly used, not very difficult. You will see people mess it up every now and then because when you enter the spawn box, it can be a little finicky. If you enter it a pixel too far to the right or something, obviously the spawn box isn't visible, so it can hard to keep track of exactly where you enter it at times. Kyung decided to pick up that backup heart right there to get him back up to full, and he might need it. There is a damage boost coming up after this long bridge room right here that you damage boost off of Popo, and then you damage boost through these anti-fairies. We'll see Walrus doing it right there, and Kyung right behind him. Slightly different strats. Kyung actually went past the Popo and then walked back into it, whereas Walrus just tapped up on his D-pad while he walked past it from the bottom. A little faster that way, just minor frames, but not too big of a difference there, and that strat usually takes about a half a heart away from your health. But with Sanctuary Heart, that shouldn't be any problem for these runners getting through the rest of this dungeon. I only see one rupee coming out from Walrus and 0 from Kyung, so we're entering a couple rooms that are heavy with Popos. They don't decide to kill any in this room. Walrus killed one but didn't get a drop. Rupees are going to come in handy later on. Right when we enter the Dark World, because we have to pay to get into the first dungeon. So we like to keep track of how many rupees we have at what points. Man, bad pattern there for Walrus is actually going to make him lose a little bit of time. Unfortunate. Wow, getting unfortunate RNG in Zelda gamer, and that actually causes Kyong to surpass him a little bit, as they were both pretty even. Walrus a little bit ahead going into the upstairs portion. Oh no, Walrus! Looks like Walrus hit the arrow a little too soon, so he gets caught up at the Igor, while Kyong is top right strat right now for Armos. If you kill the last Armos with the third arrow quickly enough, after the second to last Armos you kill, then he won't turn red. Unfortunately, Walrus messed up the first few arrows, and you saw him turn red there, but has plenty of arrows left, so it doesn't lose too much time, except maybe having to get some backup arrow refills later on. Alright, heading on over to Desert right now. We got Kyong hitting up Sahasrara. Just hoping that'll give him some boots after the end of all this soliloquy. And there he goes, he has the boots, and he's on his way out. And Walrus is doing the same. Now we got boots, now he can do spin speed. Little trick right here that Kyong's showing off. Cool stuff, you can move around freely at the dash speed, which is 4 pixels of movement per frame. It comes in very handy when you're moving in diagonals too. That's where you make the most use of it, is diagonals, so you will see runners trying to maximize their diagonals in that state. Otherwise, when they're dashing, they're just trying to maximize their dashes. It's much better to take a dash as far as you can and then turn in perpendicular directions than it is to cut it short and then walk diagonally, for the most part. I'm sure there are little instances here and there where that's not true, but that's a general rule of thumb when it comes to dashing. Also, forcing dashes along diagonals is optimal as well. It's the same logic used when you have the spin speed and you want to move in diagonals. All right, we got some bucks. Walrus Prime picking it up a little bit after Kyong there. Both of them using the spin speed to and from the library. And Walrus Prime gets this successfully on the way out. We have boots now, so we like to dash as much as possible, and the overworld and the dungeon pretty much allow for that and force you to dash, get used to dashing along hallways, things like that. So the movement tech here is nothing too crazy. This segment of the run is really well known for being pretty straightforward, and we'll get to Landmo, which is considered one of, if not the hardest boss to optimize in the run. A lot of RNG factors, a lot of having a quick maneuver, and aiming the arrows, which is the weapon that's mostly used in that fight, can be tough with all the moving enemies. Alright, so we've opened up the desert dungeon with the book, and we're just gonna be doing a lot of dashing. Cool thing about a room coming up for Kyong here is that when you have to bonk a pot off of a torch or something like that, you actually don't have to bonk directly on it. You can nudge against it and then bonk a different surface, and it will cause the key to fall off just the same. So you'll see that showed off by Kyong. Looks like Walrus is going to do the same strat here. And then the rest of this dungeon is just doing everything quick, no little tricks or anything. Just getting all these popos out of the way. And teching it. Good reactions there by Kyong. You can actually hear those cannonballs at a certain point as you enter and in the room before, so you can kind of tell what pattern you're going to get. There's one of a few patterns you can get. Depending on which one it is, you'll either be able to dash straight through, or you might have to stop and adjust, but there's plenty of time to react and also anticipate if you know how to listen for it. You'll see these runners picking up some backup arrows along the way throughout the dungeon. Hopefully they'll be close to 30 once they get to Landmo, and Kyong actually choosing to pick up the backup rupee right there because he has not gotten nearly as many rupee drops as Walrus has. And he's definitely going to need that if he doesn't get lucky later on in this dungeon as well. All right, we got our runners both in Desert 2 right now, second part of Desert. Again, nothing crazy here. Walrus has 24 arrows, so he might opt to pick up an extra arrow drop right before lighting the torches to get into Landmola's. And we see Kyong just walk right past that red rupee, which can be very, very tough pill to swallow, getting RNG like that. But there are plenty of backups and rupees to pick up later on. So he will definitely be able to get what he needs. Yeah, Kyong is not going to choose to get the final backup arrow pot in this room. He's got 28, so the extra 2 probably isn't worth that extra time, but we see Walrus is going to pick it up. And still not too much time separates these guys. They're still pretty close. Anything can happen. Anything can happen even up until G Tower and Ganon itself, so... Pretty good first phase here coming out from Kyong with Landmo. It's all about getting... The first cycle is the only one that's a set pattern, so it's all about getting consistent damage in those first 2, and then the rest is just reacting to the RNG you get, where they pop up, the directions they go in, and Kyong has a really good fight there. It looked like a 3 cycle. And just barely missed time in that arrow Walrus is, so looks like he's gonna have a 4, maybe a 5, depending on... Ooh, he tried to shoot that arrow a little too soon, which is unfortunate, and should be cleaning it up here. There you go. Good stuff, good stuff. Alright. Now we got a cool Japanese 1.0 cart only trick coming up. Called Fake Flippers. There's a few of those in the run that are exclusive to the 1.0 version. And this is one of them, and I'll try to remember to talk about them along the way. So the way this one works is you jump into the water and you have a free frame of movement before the game checks if you have flippers. If you use that frame to move into a screen transition, the game will not check after the screen transition if you still have flippers. So you just fake it out and you go, hey, I got flippers, and it goes, okay, sure. The only problem with that is if you take any damage while you are in the fake flipper state, the game gets super confused, puts you in a location, and then when you try to move from that location, it doesn't understand why you're there, and you'll soft lock the game. So it's risky in that sense, but fortunately both of our runners have gotten through cleanly. Alright, Kyong collects. The old man says, hey, it's kind of dark in here, but, you know, I'll take you to it. I'll take you to where you need to go. And just a few simple screens here. And we will be collecting the mirror from the old man as a thank you for helping him take it. Death Mountain screen's tough. Really, really tough to deal with, as you can see from Kyong right now. I mean, these dead rocks are in the worst possible spot. You rarely get RNG that bad from them, but they can do that every now and then, and even when you don't get the worst RNG, the RNG can still be pretty tough to deal with. So he's going to have to deal with that dead rock walking through him so he doesn't block himself. That's the thing about the dead rocks, is if you... Oh my god! Getting trolled. Wow, he's down to 1 heart already. Very, very, very tough mentally to go into Hera with only 1 heart, especially when you're not even there yet. Isn't really... He's just got to get past the dead rock to get into the dungeon. Which can be annoying, but Walrus Prime, fortunately for him, has much better luck and only takes a heart of damage from some trolly RNG. That dead rock just, I should say, out of Kyong's way as he enters. So any deaths in the next couple of screens are not going to be horrible for Kyong if he does take damage, because he'll just be put right back at the beginning of the dungeon. Ooh, that Moldorm almost... Oh, yeah, he took the death on purpose there. Collects a key, and now that's going to put him exactly where he would have been anyway if he mirrored out. Kyong not deciding to use the boomerang here, which I'm assuming you're going to see Walrus do. He's going to take the boomerang out. Oh no, neither of them doing this strategy. Interesting. Usually you see boom strats there. I wonder if that's some tech that I'm not aware of anymore because I don't keep up. I don't keep up with what all the cool kids do sometimes. Neither of these guys are going for a boom dash. Boom dash will allow you to dash behind those pegs, but also hitting the crystals, so the pegs come up. It saves a little bit of time in the next room, so you don't have to hit the switch there, and you use that time in this kind of auto-scroller-like room, hitting it in this room to hit the switch. But you'll see they'll both have to take out the boomerang, or nope, Kyong decides not to take out the boomerang. And neither does Walrus, so they just go up to it, slash it, and they're going to use Lantern here, and then mirror back out. Yeah, what is with all this boomless stuff, huh? I don't like it. Take out the boomerang. Use what you got on you, huh? So, still pretty close. They're only a screen apart from each other. Ooh, Kyong having a little bit of trouble, but nice recovery there. Positioning himself to hit that crystal switch, which he missed on the first go, and actually kill one of the beetles all in one swoop. Walrus having a really good beetle room there, and now we're coming up to the bomb jump here. Bomb jump is a cool little strat. You plant a bomb near a hole. Usually the hole is about 2 tiles long for you to be able to make it. And then you position yourself within 2 pixels if you don't bonk, and within 6 pixels if you do bonk. For some reason, if you're in the bonk animation, when the bomb hits you, it sends you further across that gap. So that's why you'll see people bonking there. You actually saw Walrus do a little bit of a sword spin setup there, which basically the sword spin brings you as close to the edge without actually falling. Oh no, Walrus missing the spike skip. They were so close up till that point, so he's going to lose a little bit of time there. Oh, getting that arrow drop, which is pretty danky. And Kyong is heading into Moldorm. And oh no, he reacts that time and decides, you know what, I'm just going to go around. And he will be entering Moldorm as well. Oh no, Kyong! Walrus will have a chance to take the lead again here. Using dash strats there to kind of clink through the head of Moldorm. If he gets some good luck here, he does get pretty decent luck, and he also uses the start of the dash animation to keep himself in place while Moldorm runs straight through him. Very clean fight there by Walrus, capitalizing there on the fall from Kyong as well. Oh no, Kyong suffers another fall on the last hit, and he's only got half a heart. He did hit the switch earlier, so he's going to collect some of these hearts to make it a little bit safer for him going back into the fight. But Walrus is going to have a pretty nice lead going into the Agahnim Tower segment here towards the Master Sword. Kyong is getting absolutely trolled by Moldorm right now. That's Trolldorm at its finest. That is textbook Trolldorm right there. Alright, so now is when we'll talk more about the rupees. There's a tree rupee route, that's what we like to call it, and you'll see Walrus right here is going to pull on some trees. Oh, look, 4 blue rupees came out. So, the way this logic works in the game is he just killed that guy. That's the first one. So if he kills 3 more, if you kill a total of 4 enemies, and don't take any damage before you get to the next tree, then you will get 4 red rupees. And he actually just ran by the tree that he will get on the way out to pull the rupees from. And thankfully Kyong has gotten through Moldorm on that last attempt. He's making his way over to the Master Sword now. What's annoying about the tree rupees is if you do take damage, then the tree rupee pack kind of resets, and if you've killed 4 enemies and take damage, it'll give you 4 blues again, and then you just have to make sure you kill 4 enemies and don't take damage before the next tree, which is right in front of the castle as a backup. I'm surprised Kyong didn't take more rupees there. I would have assumed he would just to be safe, but I think that's going to be enough for him to, with all the backups that you can get as well, that should be enough for him. As long as he doesn't have a problem with tree rupees here. Now Walrus dashing on down, and here's the tree right here, pulling it out. Boom, red rupees. He's going to pick up all these to make sure he has enough. That's a little bit more than he needs, but definitely better to just pick those up than have to pick up a couple extra backups. Kyung holding the Master Sword high, ready to go, ready to take it. Ready to take it to Agahnim and into the Dark World. Oh, solid bonk there by Walrus Prime. That's what I like to see. All right. Another important part of this specific segment right here is you want to have sword beams going into the beginning of Aghanim's tower. There's a strat in the second room, the gold ball and chain guards, that if you don't have arrows, or excuse me, if you don't have sword beams, there's an arrow heavy strat you can do, but you also need arrows for the first dungeon in the Dark World, so sometimes you'll just have to serve up Din Din, which is pretty much just waiting for those gold guards to get near you. Okay, Walrus Prime got a little lucky there. Talk about prize pack manipulation now. Runner Watcher, it looked like Kyung had a bunch of trouble on Moldorm, unfortunately. He had a few falls, so he's put a little bit behind by that. But what was I going to talk about? Prize pack manipulation. So the way prize packs work is all the enemies are part of some prize pack, and when you kill them, you have a 50-50 chance for them to drop the item in that prize pack that you're on, and then it'll move on to the next one. There's always a sequential order. So obviously there's a bunch of enemies in one prize pack, so it just stays on whichever item you're on, and then we'll cycle through once you actually get a drop. Now, the reason that's important is if you dash through an enemy, and we'll see Kyung go for this right now. He kills both of them with a dash. If you dash through an enemy, it actually prevents them from getting a drop, or prevents them from dropping anything at all. There's 0% drop rate with dashing through enemies to kill them. The reason that's important is because those guards are in the same prize pack as the Pokies later on in the game, so you force a fairy drop in Turtle Rock later on, as long as you don't have any other issues with that prize pack. And neither of them had a drop in that room. Like I said, Walrus killed one with a slash, so we got a little bit lucky by not getting that drop. So neither of them should have any trouble forcing that fairy drop later on. There's pretty much one iffy spot that could cause them to mess that up, but we'll talk to them when we get to it. All right, we got Walrus Prime in the chamber right now, just having to sit there and watch as Zelda is transported to another dimension, and he's going to be entering the Agahnim fight. Pretty much entirely RNG. The only thing you can really do to speed up this fight is trying to hit Agahnim into the center of the room when he does throw his energy at you, to kind of minimize the distance on average that he warps. Gets a good one there. You saw he warped just a couple tiles over. And that's one blue ball. So the first hit of each cycle, or the first attack in each cycle, will always be an energy ball. The other three have a 50-50 chance of being that or a blue ball, and the blue balls cannot be deflected back. So the amount of time this fight takes entirely depends on how many blue balls you get. Completely out of your hands. 3 is the most common. Looks like that was 2 for Walrus. If I'm counting correctly, that might have been 3. I believe if he gets this one right here. Yep, there it is. That should only have been 2 for Walrus, if I counted correctly. I believe I did. And it looks like we got Kyung in the fight right now, so still pretty close. Going into the Dark World for these guys. That was the first one I saw of his, but I might be behind. Oh, 2 in a row. It's a rough pill to swallow. As I was saying, 3 is the most common, so whenever you get better than 3, you feel lucky. Whenever you get less than 3, you want to reset and throw your card in the garbage. Looks like that was 3. 3 for Kyung. Shing. When the fight ends is actually indicative of how many blue balls you got if you know. Oh no! Walrus is going to walk into that face eater right there. If Kyung's fight ends on this blue ball, then that was 3. Yeah, that was 3 for him. So getting that third one over getting 2 is going to cost him a little extra time just because he had to sit through an extra lightning cycle. But 3 versus 2 is you really can't complain about that. Alright, Walrus showing us his dashing skills in this screen right here, the overworld screen. This is one of the 2 longest screens in the game. I'm not sure which one's longer. I would assume this is the second longest compared to the Zora Flippers area, Zora's domain. But you spend a lot of time on the screen. And Walrus does a little bit of a Kiki dash there. You saw he stopped his dash, moved down a little bit, and then walked back up. That causes Kiki to be closer to you during that cutscene and makes him have to walk a shorter distance to jump up onto the dungeon. So small little optimization there that, again, it's pretty common. Runners use that. Alright, a lot of bombs to collect here in Palace of Darkness. As we have our first, well, it's the second bomb jump, but it's arguably the toughest bomb jump. It's either that or Ice Palace. Some people have their preferences. Some people will just, you know, they just do the bomb jump because it's just a bomb jump. Who cares? So just dashing through, collecting a couple keys, making your way to the big key here for Walrus, and then we'll just need one more key to be able to get to the bomb jump. This is, like I said, pretty tough bomb jump because it's pixel perfect on the y-axis. If you are even just 1 pixel off, the trick will fail. So you have to place the bomb on a specific y-pixel, and then you have to put Link on a specific y-pixel in relation to the bomb in order to make sure you jump the gap in the right spot and clip through the rail. It's not a huge sequence break, just kind of lets you get the hammer a little bit earlier. So it is allowed, and it's not considered a major glitch. We see Walrus doing the 2 bomb strat. He puts down a second bomb in order to bust open that wall while he opens the hammer chest. Saves a little bit of time when you use 2 bombs, but it is a little bit tighter. And didn't look like he had any extra buffers there. You get 2 free pause buffers because you have to switch to the bomb and then switch to the mirror because you're going to mirror anyway. So you're going to use those anyway, so we consider those free, and then any more than that will cost you a second or 2 each time. Oh no, Walrus having a little trouble showing off his archery skills in his archery contest there. Lining that up is actually pretty annoying. Unfortunately, Walrus is not going to have sword beams. He doesn't have full health. He's not going to have sword beams to be able to hit this crystal switch in the room after this, or in the room later on as well. So that's going to cost him a little bit of time. We'd like to use those refill hearts to get us full hearts, but fortunately doesn't quite do it for him, so he's going to use an arrow here. It's a little low on arrows, unfortunately, so he's going to have to pick up backups later on in the run. Oh, we got Kyung hitting up the bomb jump. Looks like he's having a little trouble lining it up here, but oh no, he ends up just a pixel off, I believe. I couldn't really tell what pixel he was on, but it was definitely close. And now he's only got to use 1 bomb. He doesn't have to do both, so it's a little bit tighter, and it looks like he's got it there. So yeah, as you can see, Walrus had to bust out the boomerang there, and he's going to have to bend you back to the hammer, which causes a little bit of time to be wasted if you compared to if you had sword beams, but not a huge deal there. Ooh, unfortunately pokes one of those turtles, so he's going to have to chase it back down. And Kyung is going to have to worry about his bomb route now, so at this level, we have a specific bomb route. We know where the backups are. We know what we're most comfortable with in terms of what we pick up and what our backups are and what we need to get. So hopefully he's mindful of that, as he is probably down a bomb or so now. Solid first phase of the Helmasaur fight here. Gets some bad luck, but deals with it really, really well and finishes off the second phase of that really, really cleanly. Good job there by Walrus. Having a pretty decent fight, given fairly good RNG, but also not great. With the fireball coming out at the end. Good decision making there from him. Alright, he's going to sit through some crystal text. While Kyong is just finishing up, waiting for that wall to open up. And he has Sword Beam, so he is not going to have to switch back to the Boomerang in this room. Just going to walk up, boom, there it is. Does not have to waste any time with pauses. Any extra time, I should say. Kyong does not poke one of those turtles, and he is going to get through that room cleanly. And he's going to make his way into the Helmasaur fight now. Alright. Kyong getting some okay RNG here. Oh, he's getting a fireball here. You saw that he actually waited to break open the mask, and the reason for that is because when you break the mask, it'll despawn any fireballs that are on the screen. So he waited to see if he would get a fireball. He knew he was getting a fireball, so he paused a moment, waited for the fireball to be on screen, and then despawned it. If he broke the mask before the fireball actually came out, then he wouldn't be able to despawn it afterwards, even though the mask was broken. Alright, Walrus showing off an item dash there, dashing through 3 of those pegs at once. An item dash is also a 1.0 cart only glitch. The way that works is just hitting the dash button and an item button on the same frame. It works with all of the items. Some items have some wonky effects. If you do it with a hookshot, it'll put you in the super speed state that was shown off earlier in the run. And will actually be shown off coming up here, but we don't have the hookshot, so we're still going to use the swordsman strat to activate that. Alright, picking up the flute there, getting it on the first try. Stellar stuff coming out from Walrus. Kyong's through. He is making his way through this overworld screen once again. And he'll be doing the same, heading over to that grove to get the flute. As Walrus has a nice spin speed past Usain Bolt. So named because he is the fastest guard in Hyrule, and if you don't have specific spin speed movement in that screen, then he can chase you down and be a pain. So Walrus is going to break open the duck right now. And then he will be heading over to a Dark World Warp in order to get to Thieves Town, which is actually normally the 4th dungeon in the Dark World that we, I guess that, you know, you just assume because that's the way that the crystals are numbered. But what's cool is the game is actually kind of open-worldy in the Dark World, and as long as you can get somewhere, you're able to enter dungeons for the most part. They don't block you and force you to do it in any order. So we do the 4th dungeon first to open up the option to get the Tempered Sword quickly, which saves a little bit of time mainly with Ganon, but also with a couple of the other Dark World bosses that you wouldn't normally have it for, and just, you know, makes killing certain enemies easier. Alright, so Walrus is made his way into Thieves Town. Kyong showing off a spin speed. There you go, with good moving there to get past the Usain Bolt guard. not much to say about what Walrus is doing right now. Just going to collect the big key so we can make his way into the main part of the dungeon. A couple of pretty crucial rooms in this dungeon that are what the runners will focus on to try to minimize the time loss. One of them that's coming up soon is called the Hellway. That's a play there by Walrus dodging that fire snake. It's so-called the hallway. It's so-called the Hellway because there's a whole bunch of enemies that like to just get in your way and are unpredictable. But if you're Walrus, you're going to try to land on a specific pixel, which he gets. Oh no, but that Patrick Star was in his way, but a nice readjustment there. And he gets up to the top of the room with only a second dash, which is pretty good Hellway, honestly. If you get the bad RNG especially, that's very, very good play there from Walrus. Hammering that grasshopper-looking thing out of the way. Make sure he doesn't give him any pain going forward. As Kyung has entered Thieves Town now, and will make his way over to the big key. Nice job with the bombable floor room there. Walrus Prime delaying that dash just a slight little bit just to make sure that that floor is bombed open, because if you end up leaving that room before the bomb, or excuse me, before you know that the floor is open, you could get all the way to the boss and then have to traverse your way back through the dungeon, which lose a significant amount of time. Walrus has made his way downstairs, taking it. He's gonna go collect the maiden in the cell. She's gonna follow you around for a little bit as you get the mitts, and then we will go up and trigger the boss fight. I see a question that save and quit is banned in this specific category. The main reason for that being that we don't include major glitches, and the kind of ambiguous definition of major glitches is that it doesn't cause any major sequence breaks. We don't do anything really out of order. We just, with what we're given, we do everything we can to do the run as fast as we can, but we don't glitch into any areas that should be accessed for a long time. We don't do any crazy, like, weird fake Dark World stuff or anything like that. And save and quit is banned because the idea of no major glitches is to maximize the amount that you actually play, and save and quit would allow a bunch of significant skips in certain places. So yeah, as Runner Watcher said, it's kind of natural to just progress through the game instead of using save and quit to skip it around. Over the course of the entire run, save and quit doesn't save too much time. I think it's only like a couple of minutes, max. So it's not really significant anyway. Great fight there by Walrus, as I was explaining the reason for no save and quit. Blind is straightforward fight, same way, pretty much every time, unless you go off script. And that can happen pretty easily. There's a couple things that, if you're not paying really close attention, or your positioning is off just slightly, could cause things to go awry, but very well executed there by Walrus. And oh no, he unfortunately takes some damage from that bomb as he's using it to open up this 300 rupee hut. And we got Kyung heading into blind now, so hopefully he'll be able to show us some very nice blind fighting skills as well. Let's see, that's 3. Still in pretty decent shape so far, as Walrus has gotten this unfortunate toad. Ooh, goes a little bit off script for Kyung there, but he does manage to clean it up. Only about a second after he normally would have. So now is what I was talking about before. Now we're getting the tempered sword. We're going to enter this room a bunch of times and leave it a bunch of times, and then we'll have a different sword. And it's great. And we only have to pay 10 rupees to get it. Alright, here's our last visit right here for Walrus. Holding up that tempered sword high. And he's taking that warp back to the Dark World. Got the most important tech coming up right here. We call this defense dash. Let's give him a moment of silence too. Oh no, ladies and gentlemen, he fails the fence dash. Unfortunate there. That will invalidate the run. As I said, that's the most important piece of tech in the entire run, and Walrus was unable to pull it off. And I'm sure he knows that I'm not going to let him live that down. Hopefully Kian can redeem this race for us as he's making his way over to the tempered sword now. And Walrus is making his way. It doesn't actually invalidate the run, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just being dramatic because fence dash is freaking cool. But yeah, Walrus is making his way into Skullwood's now. Skullwood's overworld right into, he's going over here and he's going to deal with some annoying mummies to get the big key. Oh yeah, there you go, showing off the tech where the sword slash just goes straight through the mummy and then you just continue doing the room normally anyway. The statue causes some weird interactions with the sword and the mummies, and as you saw, it just can cause it to just not work sometimes. So that's cool. Alright, another bomb jump coming up for Walrus. Very, very similar to the one in Tower of Hera. You just got to get past this little gap here, and he uses that sword spin technique that I explained before. Oh wait, everyone quiet. It looks like Hyung's gonna get the fence dash. Let's go! Getting the fence dash. Dashing straight past that fence without having to stop or bonking. That's what I like to see. Sorry about that. Yondalash. Yondalash. Yondolish. Sorry, man. I'm just a little dramatic sometimes about the fence dash. But yeah, this Skullwoods is normally pretty complicated, blind. If you don't know what's going on, if you're playing casually, a lot of different entrances, a lot of different places to kind of get stuck. But all we do is walk in, get the big key, walk over to the big chest to get the fire rod, and then we make our way to the end of the dungeon here that Walrus is in right now. Cool tech in this room here. It's called the Mummy Hellway, and it can be annoying, especially if you use that strat that Walrus just employed. It goes a little off script for him, but he recovers pretty nicely. Using the spike there to kill that mummy extra fast, it would normally take 4 slashes, but the spike damage is double that, or level 4, which is gold sword damage. So if you hit an enemy into spikes, it will actually override the sword damage and do level 4 damage, which is good for that mummy, but it's bad for Mothula. If you hit Mothula into spikes, level 4 damage does no damage to Mothula. So you want to hit him with spikes or poke dashes in this fight. You want to try to kill him quickly too, because as you see, the longer the fight goes on, the more hectic it gets with those spikes and, you know, those extra attacks coming out from Moth. But fortunately, Walrus is able to clean that up. And as I was saying, Kyong has finished the collecting part of this segment, and now he's making his way to the end, which is just a straight shot towards Mothula through these last couple of rooms. Oh, thanks for the cue there, Greenham, showing us that the runners are, you know, they got their own Twitch channels, and you know, feel free to follow them. They put in a lot of work into this game. Show them some love if you, you know, if you appreciate the speedrunning community and this game in general. And I also have a stream myself that I occasionally do things on, like Zelda or other things. So if you want to, you know, come over and hang out sometime, totally cool. But, you know, you make your own decisions. I'm not going to tell you what to do, you know? Alright, Kyong's in the Moth fight. Nice moth fight there. The spikes didn't move around at all for him, getting some pretty good RNG and clean up the fight very quickly. Now, the next dungeon coming up is Ice Palace, and the difficulty kind of jumps a little bit here, and then it slows down in the next segment, and then it jumps again, because Ice Palace is the segment where you get the blue mail normally. So there's going to be some enemies that do a little bit of extra damage as the game adjusts for that. But after this, we're going to end up going to Swamp Palace, and Swamp Palace is normally second, and you're not expected to have as much health going in there, so everything does a little bit less damage. So the difficulty's lower, but the speedrun difficulty actually stays about the same, because it is tough to get through that segment very quickly. Oh yeah, Runner Watcher giving the facts that Walrus Prime is a little over a minute ahead here. And most of that is due to the early couple of falls that Kyung had on Moldorm in the Light World. So yeah, Light World, while usually it's not the biggest of deals, Moldorm can cause a lot of problems. So Walrus on a little collecting spree here. He got a medallion from the catfish. And now he's going to get the flippers here, which we're going to need for Swamp Palace. We get these now because you can flute right over here, and then after you're done collecting these couple of things, you can take a whirlpool right in front of Ice Palace. So it makes the most sense at this point in the run to get them. You would be kind of going out of your way to get them if you waited till after Ice Palace and before Swamp Palace. So movement tech with the boots is pretty important in this screen, especially because there's just water everywhere. You almost can't avoid it anywhere. There are certain sections where you intentionally dash a little further to get yourself on some dry land, because that's how much slower dashing in water is. So it's really important to maximize your dashes on that screen, and that's the warp I was talking about that we're going to take over to Ice Palace. All right, now, Ice Palace. We see Kyung going over. He's collecting the flippers now as well. And, you know, he is, like Runner Watcher said, a little over a minute behind, but there's some pretty sketchy areas still in the game that can lose a lot of time, and just general gameplay. You know, if you get bad RNG or you have bad movement here and there, you can just lose a lot of time in different places, not even just from deaths. So, still anyone's game, I would say, even all the way up until Ganon. There have been races in this tournament where the amount of warps that Ganon decides to give you has decided the winner. So, it's going to be, you know, it's anyone's game really all the way up until the end. And War is showing off that bombable floor room there. He does take a heart of damage, which is okay, because he's going to pick up a pot here that's going to give him a heart, so he's back to full health. And he is going to hopefully use sword beams in this room, because it does speed up the room a little bit, depending on the RNG you get. There you go. Uses the sword beams to kill that guy right there, and now he's on to the Ice Palace bomb jump, which is another tough bomb jump. But once you're comfortable with it, it's the setup is pretty automatic, depending on... There's a couple of easier setups than what Walrus just used. That was a fairly quick one. Probably the quickest one, actually. But there's a couple of easier ones that you can utilize to make the bomb jump a little bit easier and safer to set up. So a cool thing about ice physics is when you use the sword or an item, and then during those animations, you switch the diagonals in which you're moving, it'll actually accelerate Link. So you're going to see Walrus using the hammer to accelerate, and then the sword on that last one to accelerate his movement through that room to the staircase. Say goodbye to the blue mail that was in that chest, but we don't even get the big key in this dungeon because the bomb jump allows us to skip the whole dungeon and the garbage that, you know, it puts you through, and making you go through a bunch of rooms a bunch of different times if you were to do it normally. So Now we got Cold Stare coming up, and Walrus is pretty healthy going into this, but a very minor wrong move can cause this fight to get a little scary, so hopefully he will have some good execution here. You need to use your entire magic bar to break open that ice, so if you actually miss a shot, then you have to mirror out of the dungeon, but Walrus has a really, really, really good fight there. Just spinning him up into the corner, and then 6 slashes later he's dead, so really, really solid stuff from Walrus right there. Kiang has made it past the bomb jump. He's got to kill all of these penguins here. Does a really good job of killing them all with 1 spin of the sword. And he'll be using some cool ice physics in this room to try to get through it quickly. Also using the hammer, but deciding to dash down into the stairs right there. The lucky charm. Spitting out facts, just like Runner Watcher. Yeah, you get the blue mail in this dungeon normally, but like I said, we skipped the big key just because we can skip everything in the dungeon. And that actually causes the damage numbers to get kind of ramped up. Not in the next segment, but in Ice Palace, and then after this next segment coming up. The next segment coming up, as I said, is the Swamp Palace, which is normally done second. And since it's normally done second, there's a lot of enemies that don't do... They almost all do light world damage. Because the game's not expecting you to really have a lot of hearts, and you don't have extra mail to defend yourself. So it just... Instead of throwing enemies in that do a lot of damage, it throws a lot of enemies in that do a little damage. And that's the reason that it's still difficult to do this segment kind of fast, because... you're always comfortable going through this dungeon. You're never in a situation where you might die. I mean, people have died in this segment before, obviously, but for the most part, it's really not something that the runners are fearful of. But you lose your time by just getting nickeled and dimed. Just there's a lot of enemies, so there's a lot of RNG that you have to deal with, and it can be hard to get through the rooms in the known optimal movement, just because you just are trying to move out of the way of enemies that are unpredictable. So it looks like Kiang had a little bit of a mishap on the last, on his last hit of Cold Stare, and it looks like he's going to have to redo that dungeon because he has not gotten the crystal yet. But the strategy he employs here is that he's going to do Swamp Palace because he has everything he needs to do Swamp Palace, and that'll ensure that he has full magic and an extra heart going into the Ice Palace segment again. Unfortunately, there's no way to skip or just zoom back through the Ice Palace. You have to do it the exact same way as he did it the first time. So instead of farming magic and hearts, he's just gonna utilize the refill at the end of this dungeon. He will go back through it. So that is going to put him a little bit further behind because he's going to have to redo the Ice Palace. But like I said, still anyone's game. There's definitely some painful deaths that can happen in Mire or Turtle Rock or anything like that. And again, a lot of movement tech that if you mess up can lose you a bunch of time here and there. So as you can see, like I said, a lot of enemies can be pretty hard to dodge. But this dungeon's pretty straightforward. It is going to just be walking through this room about 1,000,000 times that Walrus is in. And thankfully he remembered to hit that switch after releasing that water. If you don't do that, then you will get all the way to the room before the big key and then realize that you didn't hit the switch and then have to go back and do it again, which would have lost him a bunch of time. So fingers crossed that Kiang doesn't make that mistake as well. Once you make that mistake, you'll never make it again. You make that mistake once, and it will stick with you for the rest of your speedrun career. Ooh, Walrus showing off another 1.0 only glitch where you can take some damage while you're falling, which is not fun. But yeah, looks like Kyung did remember to hit that crystal switch, so he won't have that problem either. But a perfect example here. Okay, Walrus gets good RNG there, but that blue jelly can be annoying when you're trying to get in position to dash out of the room. So it's just little things like that here and there. There you go. Fire Snake just decided to be in the wrong place at the wrong time for Walrus and loses just a little bit of time there. Little bit of a setup here. We open up that hookshot chest in a very precise location to hammer over the ledge before pulling out the hookshot. Which, it looks like he messed up his movement a little bit. If you do that setup correctly, you will be able to hook over to that pot, which is a pixel perfect position. But like I said, we do have a setup for it, but unfortunately Walrus missed it there. We'll see if Keon gets it later on as he goes through. And really low on arrows here, so, wow, really low on arrows here. He does have 2 bombs, which is what he wants. Walrus, I'm speaking about. So, he's not going to have to worry about that, but he is going to have to get probably 1 extra arrow pickup later on that he was probably hoping to skip. And it looks like Keon got the setup properly for hookshotting his way over to that key pot. So, thankfully, he was there to show that off. And, yeah, Walrus notices that he doesn't have that many arrows and goes for that extra refill right there. And I'll probably, like I said, pick up another one beyond that later on. Maybe 2. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Man, those little Tektite things don't want to give Walrus the time of day, but he swims right on through them, and we'll see if he goes for a 0 cycle. And he is going for a 0 cycle, so this is a really neat trick, but unfortunately he drops it pretty early, and he's going to have a little bit of trouble adjusting because Argus decides to just cling to him, just stay as close as possible, which makes it hard to kill him quickly. So I'll explain the 0 cycle as he finishes up here. There you go, Argus is going to jump up, and he's going to use the 2-spin technique to finish with the second phase off. That's the second one right there. So the 0 cycle Argus, when you hook dash with the sword out, it actually makes it so that pokes will do full sword damage. So this allows you, with the tempered sword, to be able to kill those little puffs with 1 poke each. And as long as you are in the right position and you have the proper timing with the hook shot, you will keep the sword out. And, unfortunately, Kyung drops it early as well. Yeah, but like I said, you would keep the sword out, and it would allow you to just kill those puffs super, super fast, and actually gives you the ability to kill all of those puffs before that spinning tornado attack, where, all the puffs fan out from Argus. So it looks like both of these runners have an equally tough time on the first phase of Argus here. The 0 cycle is not easy, but a lot of runners choose to do it because if you do drop it, then you're able to recover it to the point where you wouldn't lose time to the normal strat you would use otherwise. There we go. So both of these guys are on the same crystal right now, but like I said, we have to remember that Kyung will have to go back through Ice Palace, and that's going to cost him a couple minutes there. So the gap here is a little bit wider than you might think, but plenty of chance for Kyung to make up some time depending on Walrus's execution, and definitely some scary parts in the run coming up as well. Walrus, before heading over to Mire, is going to make his way up to collect the medallion up here, and then he will make his way over to the Ice Rod Cave. Unfortunate that he took that damage there. He's going to want to have full hearts going in to the Mire dungeon for a couple reasons. One, because the second room in Mire, we like to do with sword beams. It makes the strat in that room a little bit faster because we're trying to beat out Wizrobe cycle if we can, which is easier to do with sword beams than with Fire Rod. But again, you do need full hearts, and he's going to actually slash an extra bush. He did that a few seconds ago in the Dark World in order to collect an extra heart. There's a drop chance for hearts in a couple of those bushes that people tend to farm if they've taken any damage on Death Mountain, and now he'll be fluting over to 8. And he'll be getting the Ice Rod. The other reason you want to have full hearts going into Mire is because the boss strat for for Vitreous to kill him optimally actually includes a lot of damage boosting and the potential to, if you kind of move incorrectly and do the damage boosting correctly, or you get some bad RNG, you could take a lot of damage from the eyeballs, and if you don't have enough health, then you're done. And you have to make your way through the dungeon again to Vitreous, which loses a couple of minutes. So you want to have as much health as possible going in here. Okay, so Kyong is collecting all this extra cool stuff as well at this point. So he has gotten the medallion. He is now... Oh, Walrus, the originator of the bird toss, decides, hey, I'm going to pick up this bird, I'm going to throw him in the pool over here, and then I'm going to go on my merry way. Alright, Kyong, what's your play here? What's your play here? He's fluting down over here, and he's making his way back into the Ice Palace. And there we go! Walrus Prime showing off the Sword Beam strat in that room that I was talking about earlier. That is why you want Sword Beams in that room. It makes it a lot easier to beat out that Wizrobe cycle, and he does it there and has a really clean mire too. Solid execution there by Prime. Mr. Prime. Alright. So Kyong's going to do what he can to speed his way through the Ice Palace here. He's going to have to do the bomb jump again. And he's going to have to do the bombable floor again. So he might be down a couple of bombs. He'll have to find out how to get those backups. There are a couple in the Mire dungeon itself. So if he is down, he can collect the ones he needs. And Walrus is making his way to Mire Torches. And the reason Mire Torches is significant is because it's kind of like a benchmark to see where you are. You know, the run's winding down, and at this point, from when you light the torches, for someone of this level, it's about 20 minutes until Ganon, if execution goes really, really well. So Walrus Prime definitely on a good pace here, still fairly close to his PB, I would assume, based on the fact that he got a 107 at the Mire Torches. He'll most likely be in the 127 range at the end of the run, given the rest of his execution goes well. Alright, Kyong getting the bomb jump. Second time through pretty easily. And Kyong using the hook shot, utilizing everything in his arsenal now. Normally you don't have the hook shot going through there the first time, but he did collect it in Swamp, so he's going to use it there to speed up that room a little bit. Walrus Prime decides to just bash through that spark there. That is actually the fastest strat there, and if you have full hearts, usually runners will go for it. Sometimes if you're down a heart or two, then you might take a slightly longer way around, but doesn't lose too much time. And now he's got to get this spike key, which is another big damage boost. And this is, you know, again, there's just a bunch of damage boosts in this dungeon, so you want to make sure you're utilizing your health efficiently, and taking any extra damage can make this a little bit a little scary. Alright, round 2 for Kyong and Cold Stare. Let's cheer him on, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure he's got nerves of steel right now, and he's ready to take on this giant puffball. Yeah, let's go. Poke him. Let's poke him. Get those slashes in. Get him. Get him. There you go, Kyong. Kyong has redeemed himself. That was a very solid fight. So now he's in. He's going to be in the same segment now as Walrus. He is going to be decently far behind, but he has gone on the collecting spree, so he's going to be able to just go straight over to the Mire dungeon. So again, still anyone's game. This is definitely close enough for Kyong to make up with any sort of execution mistakes from Walrus, and the difficulty is definitely ramping up from here on out. So still anyone's game. And I believe Walrus Prime showed off a cool little manipulation there. You make sure you only have 2 bombs going into this dungeon, so that that second bomb you use to open up that floor before that crystal, or that wall before the crystal switch, automatically transitions you to the fire rod because you run out of bombs, and it saves you, which is a cool little optimization that a lot of the top runners use. Now, this is the damage boost heavy strat that I was talking about, and Walrus Prime does it flawlessly. Maybe a little hiccup slightly, but he does manage to kill all those eyeballs before getting a lightning attack from the real eyeball, and then 8 quick arrow shots, and he's going to finish him off really quickly. So good execution there from Walrus, still going strong. It doesn't look like he's really phased. It looks like he's at the top of his game right now, but we've got Turtle Rock coming up, so we're going to have to, he's going to have to keep up that solid execution in order to keep this lead. Alright, Kyong92. Walrus decided to let the Frozen Bird have it, but Kyong as well is going to let the Frozen Bird have it. Showing all the love and no love to the bird toss. Everything involving damage is a damage boost. All the damage we take is on purpose, TV. That's the kind of runner that we all are, Everything, all the damage we take is because we intended to take that damage. A Walrus point versus Kyung. All right. Nobody likes this screen at all. Nobody, and you go through it way too many times for a speed run. So Walrus is gonna wave that screen goodbye. Fortunately, he gets through it pretty cleanly. That screen can go really, really bad. Oh no, he blocks himself. He's gonna dodge. He's gonna dash over this way just to despawn that D-Rock. That D-Rock. Shout out to D-Rock. Oh, I should have talked about that glitch. So Kyung is in the Mire Torches room that I was talking about before with Walrus, and when a block is moving, you can actually shoot projectiles through it, which include the fire rod, and later on you'll see the hook shot, most likely. So that's why we're able to just push those block and light the torches with the fire rod as they're moving. And Walrus is making his way into Turtle Rock now. He's actually down a few hearts, so we'll see if he decides to employ any different strats, maybe mirror out after the, the rollers room. But being down that many hearts going into this dungeon is tough, because a lot of stuff does 4 hearts of damage. He has manipulated the prize pack, as I explained before, to get a fairy drop in this dungeon, most likely, so takes a little bit of damage there, but damage boost, so he's back in the door, and he's going to be on his merry way. Definitely intended damage there. Oh yeah, so normally the way you would do this, if you're not super clever and use all the items at your disposal, is you would go the other way around this little maze that Walrus is in. But we have the hook shot, and we just fall in the hole, and we end up right where that door is, and it's still open for us. Oh, Walrus showing off his professionalism with the hook shot, using the iframes from the hook shot to get through those rollers. Normally you would damage boost through them, but like I said, he took some extra damage that you normally don't take going into this dungeon, so he decides to bust out the hook shot and use the iframe so he doesn't take any extra damage there. Loses him a little bit of time compared to the strat he would normally use, but not a crazy amount. And this is where, ooh, normally you would get the fairy drop there, but gets a little unlucky. There's 2 drops that come out of the pokies. Oh my goodness, he gets trolled by that. That was really heads-up play. He got trolled by that chain chomp there, getting in his way with that second Samaria Blast, but reads it, dodges the chain chomp when it's lunging towards him, and actually recovers really well from that. Kyung has made his way through most of Mire now. He also used that bomb manipulation, like I said, where you plant that last bomb and it automatically cycles you to the fire rod, which you can use to save a menu and then use in the next room to light the crystal. He's going to make his way into Vitreous now. And we'll see how he does. Alright. Using the damage boost to get a lot of damage on those eyeballs. And ooh, he does get the lightning cycle, so that is 1 cycle, but only loses a few seconds to the 0 cycle. And again, 8 quick arrows, and Vitreous is done. Well done by Kyong. Meanwhile, Walrus has picked up the big key, and now he's just making his way through the rest of the dungeon. Has still not gotten that fairy drop. I didn't actually make a note of if it dropped and he missed it, because he should have gotten it from the pokey as he was going through to get the key to get to the big key. But it looks like he's not getting any drops. It's nothing. Oh, when he actually takes a pokey to there's the fairy drop that he so desperately needed. Gets it at the perfect time, and now he's going to have plenty of health as he makes his way through the rest of the dungeon. Waluigi. Well, Waluigi. Attack it. Oh, nice little Samaria strat here. Boom, boom, boom. 3 Samarias in a row. Pick that up, and then, oh, unfortunate that he kind of Sean cast a little bit on that chest, which caused him to have to wait a little bit for that roller. But gets through the room cleanly anyway. Now we got Kyong fluting over to Death Mountain, the worst screen in the entire game. Maybe we'll see a drive-by from him here. Oh, nope, he's going to fall down, but he's going to get pretty solid RNG, and oh, thankfully he didn't fall off and drop down to the area below on that ledge. Good, that was a good screen. He got to do that pretty quickly. And now we got the laser skip coming up from Walrus. There's eyeballs set up on all of these bridges so that it will shoot at you as you cross it, but if you dash along specific pixels, then you will actually not get hit by those laser beams, and you kind of nudge around them. If just, you know, the timing's right, that you can nudge around them. And the hitboxes are weird on those too. If you notice, I think it's only the front or the back end of those that'll hit you. I can't remember now. It's been too long since I've actually played the game, so I don't know. But yeah, we use that as well to make sure we can get past that laser without needing the mirror shield. And Walrus is making his way into Trinix right now. I'm going to do a little backdoor strat, and he's actually going to make sure he switches to the fire rod before killing off that head there, because while that head's exploding, you can't use the menu. So he makes sure he uses the menu beforehand, and then he is free to go over and attack the ice head while the fire head's exploding. Gets through the first phase of the fight quickly by killing those 2 heads off, and now it's just going to be a couple of spins. Ooh, misses the second spin. So he's going to have to use a few more slashes to get rid of the last phase of Trinix, but it doesn't take too much longer. Alright, Kyong coming into this dungeon with a lot of health. So he might be able to show off some damage boost strats that Walrus opted against because he had taken a little bit too much damage before entering the dungeon. We got Kyong hookshotting past these little rollers here, and he is going to use this damage boost strat out here. That's the fastest way through that room. That is known, as long as you execute it properly. Didn't have to take the hookshot out to use the iframes and get out of there super safely. Now he's going to enter Chomps. Chomps is just horrible. He's going to get the fairy drop here, which is good and bad. As you saw, it was delayed for Walrus. Nice, using the sword beams to speed this room up just slightly. Oh, but lunch from that. Chain Chomp was not desirable, but doesn't lose him too much time. Having sword beams in this dungeon actually speeds up a few rooms, so it is nice that he got that fairy drop early, and hopefully he can utilize the sword beams for the most part going forward. But Walrus now making his way into Ganon's tower with a still a pretty decent lead, as Kyong has to pick up those backup arrows. Looks like Walrus is 1 arrow short of being able to skip all of the backup arrows on his way to Ice Armor, so he's going to have to pick up some backups as well in Ganon's tower. Oh no. A little bonk there from Kyong fortunately forces him to have to bust out the fire rod there to get that key. And that's the reason that sometimes it's nicer to get the delayed fairy, because if you have a little bit of a mishap. It's nice to have a refill like Walrus got later on in the dungeon. Walrus goes for Spike Skip. Doesn't quite get it, which is a cool little thing that most people watching the game don't even know how it works or how you can get it, but you could save a little bit of time in that room if you're able to spike downward, or excuse me, hook shot downward before the spike passes a specific point. Alright, Kyung's going into Poke 2 now. See if he can get through these guys nice and cleanly, and he does. Oh, and he dashes out of the room. Really, really clean Poke 2 room there. Very solid execution. That was very, very quick Poke 2. That was impressive. As Walrus is going to make his way through this little maze here, we'll decide, or we'll see what backup arrows he decides to pick up. If he bugs past that warp, he's not going to get the ones in that warp. So it looks like he's going to get ones in the room just before falling into Ice Armos. Kyung making his way through the dark platform maze. Yep, there we go. Walrus goes up to the top of that room. So we got the Armos refight. It's on ice, but what's cool is instead of just spawning out of the dungeon, we need to make sure we're positioned at the top of the room to get out of the room as quickly as possible. So we start in this bottom right corner, and then we manipulate our movement so that we stop right in front of the door when we kill that last one, and then we just dash on through to optimize that room. And he's going to collect those arrows. So need those for mimics. Nice laser skip there by Kyung as well. Having a pretty solid turtle rock so far. Mimics is considered by some to be the most difficult rooms. The two coming up, the most difficult rooms to optimize. There's a lot of it's no RNG. It's all execution. And Walrus, see that's where it can be tough with those spikes going by. They like to block those shots. And he had one little mishap with a slash, but he's going to be able to redeem himself here. Has a solid execution there in that room. So very, very clean Mimic's room in general for him. Kyung, meanwhile, is finishing off the last head of Trinex, having a very clean fight so far. He's just got the last phase and plenty of health. So we'll see if he gets the double spin here. It's just a double spin. Yep, he gets the double spin, and now he's just got to slash him. Good to go. Very, very solid Turtle Rock coming out. Kyung. What you would expect from a 1-2-7 runner. Alright, Walrus is now in the gauntlet. We call it the gauntlet because you have to kill all of the enemies in each room in order to progress. And they can give you the fits, you know, they can all just... Ooh, oh, those skeletons almost lined up for Walrus's dash down to the bottom of the room. But not quite there. Trying to use a fire rod to kill off that blue guy that went up into that corner, which is not desirable as well, but still getting through the room here, and got to kill off these two guys. And now we're in the last section of the gauntlet. He's going to fire rod here to use wonky hitbox to kill that skeleton. Take a magic bullet to the face from that turret, and now he's making his way into Landmo 2. Landmo 2! Let's see if he can zero cycle this, or one cycle this. Oh no, he gets the short hop from the last one and just barely mistimes that last fire rod. If he shot that just a couple frames earlier, he might have been able to land that fire rod. Yeah, the one cycle on Landmo 2 is tough. It's it's not entirely uncommon. It's not a crazy strat, but it is tough, and it's definitely got some RNG factors involved too, like that short hop there is what led Walrus to miss it. So sometimes you just get bad RNG and just got to deal with it. So Walrus now has made his way past those two cool Wizrobe rooms where we used the Cane of Samaria to kill him off quickly. And he's going to try to get a dash past this fire. Oh, no. The fire bar actually is walked past instead of dashed past. That the timing in that room is tough in order to get a dash past that. So you don't see that every day. It's not very easy. All right, cool stuff. Walrus getting through that second torch room. Whew, coming up to the end of the game now, and it's been It's been a run, ladies and gentlemen. Still doing a really, really good job execution-wise, and Kyung hanging in there also in G Tower, making his way over to Ice Armos. But we're at the last 3 bosses. We have this Moldorm refight. Oh, Moldorm just being a little bit of an annoying little dude. But nice clean fight. Just a slash and a spin, you know, coming out there to get that kill there. And that's what I was saying before, that moving block, you could shoot the hook shot straight through it and hook into that other block, and he uses the iframes there to get past that little mini Helmosaur. And now he's going to make his way into Aga 2 as Kyung makes his way over to Ice Armos. Aga 2 is a little different from the Aga 1 fight because you always have the option to do damage to the real Aga as long as the illusion cycles aren't desynced. You still can get blue balls, but there's always going to be energy balls coming out from the illusions. And wow, solid. I believe that was a 3 cycle there, getting 2 each phase, which is, you know, the fastest you can do it is a 2 cycle. So solid execution there from Walrus again. Looks like he's going to be slightly behind his PB going into Ganon here, but still on a very, very good pace. And I believe he still can get a 127, sub 128. So he's plenty healthy going in here. So it's going to take some misexecution. The bats do tend to do a lot of damage, and again, the hug does 8 hearts of damage. So definitely still a possibility of a death here, or maybe a fall. As Ganon, the execution isn't free, that's for sure. So we'll see Walrus Prime showing off his skill by doing those diagonal slashes. He's definitely practiced this fight. Oh yeah, oh look at that, look at that fire bat movement. Just goes right into the thick of it. Solid stuff coming out from Walrus. Very, very consistent run so far. This is the RNG point in the run, this 3rd phase right here. He just, oh look at that, he's just warping around over and over again, which is what he likes to do. Kyung also had a death at Cold Stare, which is probably the most costly death in the game, unfortunately. And he's actually kept up pretty well considering the Hera falls, or excuse me, the Moldorm falls and the death at Cold Stare. Otherwise, he's executed very, very well. So now we got Walrus here on the last phase here, just 12 spins, and he has gotten the torch glitch, which allows you to keep the right torch lit at all times, so you only ever have to worry about lighting that left torch. And he's in a solid cycle of about 3 spins per torch glitch, or per torch light. Ooh, misses that one there, but still has a good rhythm going. And barring any catastrophic event here, like I said, he's still plenty healthy. And that's the last hit right there for Walrus Prime, so that is going to be GG. For Walrus Prime, and that is unfortunately going to knock Kyung out. I see a 128.21.9 on Walrus's stream. I don't have the official race time. I'm assuming it's going to be a second or so higher than that. But very, you know, not his best, roughly a minute behind his best, but very, very solid execution from Walrus Prime throughout the run. I don't believe he suffered death, and you know, just handled everything really, really cleanly. Good stuff. Good stuff. Gonna serve him well moving on up the bracket. As we got Kyung, not terribly far behind, still in Ganon's tower, but coming up towards the end of it now. He's gonna pick up this heart here, hook shot over here, get this key here, get this magic here. Probably the most crucial magic refill in the game, although some very high level runners will decide to skip it in certain circumstances. Getting his revenge on Moldorm there, who gave him so much trouble earlier on in the run. Has a very, very clean, quick fight there. He's gonna make his way on up to the Agahnim fight now. Oh no, mistimes a spin there. And it looks like he's only gonna get one, maybe two of the energy balls landed there, and he gets a blue ball out there, so a little bit of bad luck as well. Wow! Getting all three of those last energy balls on that last cycle. That was a really, really solid way to finish off that fight. All right, making his way into the Ganon fight now. Trying to see if we can get Walrus in here for a little bit of interview action, but not getting much of a response from him. I'm not sure if he is quite feeling it or has the ability to join me here. So we will see. Kiang showing off the inside fire bat strat and dashes coming out. Can be pretty nerve-wracking when you're first learning it, but once you get used to that strat, it becomes kind of automatic. I mean, it is risky with the fire bats and the amount of damage they can do. Whatever, who cares? But pretty solid execution there, Kiang. Bam. Bam, bam, la 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 la. Alright, so now here we are in the last phase. We see that torch glitch coming out. The way that works is you actually have to light the left torch. See, the left torch goes out before the right torch. So you light the left torch before the right torch goes out, and that's what keeps the right torch lit the whole time. Lich the whole time. Cool. Good English, dude, bro. Sick. Now he switched back to the fire rod after using the torch to get the torch, or the lamp to get the torch glitch, and now he's in a solid 3-spin pattern, which is the best you can ask for, and what you'll see most runners at this point in the brackets doing. And
big day.
Last hit coming out from Kiang. Very solid stuff there, and as that's happening, I'm joined by Walrus Prime. Hey Walrus, GG man, great run. I know it was about a minute behind your PB, if I'm not mistaken, but pretty solid execution so far.
Yeah, it was a fun race. Give me a second. My volume is down in Discord for a second, so I could barely hear you.
Oh yeah, take your time. I could be loud, so sometimes people turn me down, you know.
So this, crank it up to 150.
Ooh, okay, I'm getting the treatment now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, I mean, first things first, congratulations on the win. And solid execution there, 128.21. I didn't have all the info going in, so do you know what your best time so far is in the tournament?
I think this is my new best. So
solid, very solid.
I think I've got 3. Well, how many races have I done now? 5. I think I've got like 3 or 4 mid 128s and a 129. So I'm nothing if not consistent, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think this is the lowest of them by about 10 seconds or so.
Hey, consistency is always good to have for sure. So, were you? One thing I'm curious about is, were you aware of some of the mishaps Kiang was having throughout the run?
Yeah, I had the stream up on my phone just to kind of glance at here and there to see where we were at. And in Hera, after I fell on that bumper skip, I didn't look back. I looked back again, and I had finished the fight first. I was like, "Oh my gosh, what happened?" He was fighting him. It looked like for like a second or third time.
Yeah, he had a couple of unfortunate falls. I think all happening on the last hit of Moldorm when he goes crazy and can be really annoying to deal with. So
yeah, I had the stream up on my phone just to kind of glance at here and there to see where we were at. And in Hera, after I fell on
Right.
Right, going to the swamp. Oh, maybe he didn't, but he did, right?
Yeah, he did have a death at cold stare, and did the swamp palace recovery strat.
Yeah.
Going in there. Hey, we're also joined by Kyung. Not trying to ignore you. How you doing, Kyung?
Hey.
Yo, Kyung. GG,
hey,
man.
Yeah, GG to you. With all the mishaps that went wrong, it seemed like those big things, those few big things, and otherwise it was a really, really cleanly executed run. So sometimes that's just how it goes. You can have really, really solid execution, and just a couple crucial moments, you suffer those big time losses. Did you, were you nervous going into Cold Stare at all? Do you think that had any effect on the fight, or was it just something got away from you and then it just kind of snowballed?
So going to this race, because of our PBs are so close,
yeah,
I really thought that the race would basically be decided on who made less mistakes, really, right?
Right.
Unfortunately, that was me. On the case of Cold Stare specifically, I wasn't really scared, and I had the initial strat right. But I'm not sure if that was my mistake or control mistake or what, but I slashed the wrong way on the last hit, so I ended up taking the body damage. And I had only 4 hearts going there.
Right.
And part of that was also because I tried to only pick up one of the pots upstairs, since I had almost full magic, but the jelly was nearby, and me getting hit by him, that put me into 4 hearts, so that was kind of fortunate too.
Oh man.
Yeah. Going into that fight with 4 hearts would scare me, honestly. But I know that you guys are very, very practiced, so I can understand. You're like, I got 4 hearts. I can take at least 1 hit from an ice blast, but yeah, like you said, it's just sometimes Cold Stare's a little finicky. Sometimes you slash, a slash misses, and then you just end up walking right into him or something, which is unfortunate. But yeah, really. Otherwise, like I said, a little mistake can cause a lot of time loss, which was the case here, and which is pretty unfortunate. But it was a very, very solid and well executed run overall. Despite those few mistakes.
Yeah, I wasn't unhappy with my run at all. I got a really big gold on desert, almost 4-second gold, which was kind of crazy.
Yeah, nice. I saw you had a really solid Landma 1 fight as well.
I think it was an early 3 or something.
Yeah. Early 3 is definitely solid there. So
and most of the rest of the run was really like some very, very big mistakes or almost none. Most of the splits were really close to gold and stuff, so it's like unfortunate that my worst run in the tournament was against my strongest opponent, but I mean, it's NMG.
Yeah, that's how it goes. And again, it's just the luck of the draw sometimes. But GG to you, great job. Otherwise, and unfortunately, you make your exit here, but pretty cool stuff to make it this far into the tournament. Especially with the 128 entrants, and we're down to, I think, 32 at this point. So very, very solid stuff. Congratulations on that. Do you have any plans to continue NMG, or was it just something you did for the tournament and now you're going to move on to something else?
I'm really happy overall with how I play in the tournament, especially since before the tournament was announced, I had a 131, I think, and I pushed that to 127.
Wow. That's a big jump in just a couple months. Yeah.
Very nice.
Good stuff.
Since my PB is still kind of far from my goals, I usually kept around 2 minutes between my sum of best and my PB, and it's kind of growing up. So I think I'll try to push for a new PB soon.
Yeah.
But otherwise, since there are other tournaments coming up and stuff, but I'm really happy with how I played here.
Yeah, definitely. And it was a lot of fun to watch you throughout the tournament. And it's going to be fun to watch you push, because just based on your execution here, I definitely know you can push that time a little further down. And definitely get into the 126, if not the 125 range.
Okay,
So-
let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Hey man, I saw some gems. I saw some good movement. I saw some good execution. So I believe. But yeah, definitely gonna be fun to follow you, watch you make those attempts. But Walrus, again, GG. I wanted to ask you one last question. I know that after the Cold Stare death, and you saw him going through Ice Palaces, you were making your way through Mire. Was there anything that was still you were nervous about? Was there anything that you were really worried about coming up, like maybe doing something wrong at Trinex or something like that, or did you feel pretty comfortable once you got out of Mire?
Once I got out of Mire, I was much more comfortable. I'm always a little scared going into Vidi.
Yeah.
Stray eyeball can end that fight really quickly.
Right.
But that went well, and then Turtle Rock's always scary. Everything in there hits like a truck. So I played it a little safe. I didn't go for the damage boost in the roller room and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I made a little mistake on the Trinex fight. I missed the double spin, but I wasn't too worried. I had a ton of health, I think, still. So I think I ended up getting hit from him as well through 4 hearts, but I still had probably 6 or something left. So, I was feeling pretty confident, knowing the lead I had and the way I was playing. I was playing, pretty well. Not super great. Funny thing is, like, I've been playing a lot more Mega Man X lately, preparing for my departure from this tournament, inevitably next round. But I switched controllers to play MMX because my Link to the Past controller has a little bit too sensitive up, and I was like grabbing ladders when I didn't want to, and I'd never switched back, and so my D-pad felt totally wrong the entire run.
Yeah.
Like my pumping, I didn't feel like I was pumping right ever.
Right.
Just because it's like it's a much softer D-pad. So that was a struggle to get used to, but you probably saw, I don't know, you weren't here right away, but in the very first room, when I get out of Link's bed, I like walked to the door, and then I walked back to the left, to the back. I was like, oh, this is not right.
Yeah. Yeah, the bad D-pad in Escape and Eastern especially is something you have to deal with because you're so reliant on the movement there.
Yeah.
But yeah, just great job, 128, solid run, GG, and good luck. Do you know who your opponent is or might be moving forward? I don't have the bracket in front of me, so.
My next opponent is the winner of I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, Giselle something like that.
Giselle is fine.
Yeah, and Giselle and Blunt Bunny are racing, and I get the winner of that. So.
Oh, okay, very cool. So that'll be a fun race. Is that scheduled? Let me look. I'm looking at the schedule.
I think they just were talking about it today. I was paying.
Okay, so that's not scheduled yet. So you'll have a little bit of time, and you'll be able to see who your opponent is.
Looking like potentially on the 22nd.
Okay,
in
so
the scheduling channel is what they're talking about. So
a few days before you know who your opponent is, but
12
moves
days.
you
Jeez, that's a long ways away.
This was your round. Was this your second round of the bracket?
Yeah, this is my second round.
Yeah,
the first opponent was Pika Pals.
Gotcha. So now you're on to the round of 16, right?
Yeah, much deeper.
In the tournament. Yeah,
much deeper than I thought I was ever going to get. So
yeah, like I said, just making it to this point is really impressive. So hats off to both of you, Kyung for making it this far, and Walrus for moving on. So before I start plugging the upcoming races, do either of you want to make a last comment?
Just thanks everybody that worked to make this tournament happen, especially Scrivo and Greenham, which made an ungodly amount of work. And GG's.
Agreed.
Good luck on your next round, Warriors.
Thank you, and good luck on 126 to you. And I just want to say shout outs to Dude Bro Sick for jumping in on last second to save the commentary for this race.
Yeah, I sat down on my computer and I saw a bunch of pings for commentators, and I was like, you know what? I know it's already started, but somebody's got to do the job. So it was actually a blessing in disguise because it was a really fun race for me to watch and accommodate. There were a lot of good moments, a lot of good execution. So thank you guys for putting on this race, and again, GG to both of you, and good luck, Walrus, going forward. We have, I believe that's the last race of the day for no major glitches. We have MikeTheViewer and Muttski tomorrow. Before that, we actually have Louie and Void. And then tomorrow evening, Eastern, we have Fricker and Zero Rush. So make sure you tune in for those tomorrow. They are all great runners, and at this point in the tournament, you're going to see some quality stuff and some really good races. So make sure you tune in for those. Otherwise, there's plenty of a Link to the Past randomizer going on any of the speed gaming channels right now. So just pop open the speed gaming schedule. There's plenty of channels. There's plenty of the racing action going on. And again, I want to second what both Kyung and Walrus had agreed and say shout outs to Scrivo and Greenham for putting this on. Shout outs to Speed Gaming for the restreams and everyone that has put this together. It was a huge tournament, and it's really impressive how much work everyone's put into it and how it's gone pretty much without a hitch. It's gone pretty smoothly. So again, thanks you guys, GG, and I'm just gonna wrap it up there for now. Thanks for watching, guys.
Big day. Later, guys.